Alright everyone, welcome to, I guess another episode of The Deep End. So, I'm not really going to go into too much code today because I'm just going to go into some examples of what I was doing. I spent some time working on a new thing. So, I've already got my... Where is it? Here it is. I've already got this, the particle effect thing, basically the interface so I can apply particle effects to a certain location. But you have to actually type in each effect. Like if I go to here, see, I have to call it. I'm like, okay, if you right click on the block, make a new particle called portal. It should have this radius, this speed, this count, and that radius. And then go ahead and spawn it there. Well, I was messing around and I'm like, you know what, let's go ahead and add a cool little player effect for like special things, like you can unlock it or something, I don't know. So I went ahead and wrote this. Basically, what I did is I did a switch case, I did switch, and then a particle type. And then it said, we can fill this in for you. So here, I'll actually show you. Let me go down here. Switch, particle type. What is it? Particle type, yeah. Particle type. Why not working? Did I do something wrong? Let's try... Hold on, I gotta remember actually what it's called. No, it should work, like... How that works. That's really weird. Let me just go ahead and do this. It doesn't want to work. I did something wrong. I know I did. Let's try particle effect, particle type. Okay, well if that doesn't work, what you do is you particle type TP equals new particle type. Particle effect. Right? Okay. There we go. It helps. It worked up there when I did it earlier. Okay, so here, let's do this. So, I don't know why it worked up here. Oh, because I called it from a different thing, that's why. So, basically, what I did to do this is I just typed in the particle type, and then I clicked fill. Watch. When you do a switch case in this, you can do add missing case, and it will fill in all of it. So if I were to do So if I were to do, if I were to just do this and I do add missing case statements, it'll grab every single entity in the game, even unknown, whatever that is. So it's a really nice thing to have. Undo that. Okay, I just wanted to show you how to do case switches if you didn't know the all the names for everything. So what I did that, and then I just went and made it a string because it's easier to work with for what I'm doing. And then I return it as the type that is. So if the string equals that, or that, or that, or that, or that, or that, any of those, then it'll return that. But it doesn't matter what these are, or what the input string is, because it always goes to uppercase, because that is how the particles are. And that's how the particle classes are saved. So that's just how you do your switch case. And what was I talking about? Why did I open this? Oh yeah, I wanted to talk about the particle system I had to make. So I went ahead and made a README file for like how to do it, and then the config, how you do the configs, which is it's empty right now. Okay. And then I went ahead and added some new commands. Let me go to okay. And then if you do this, okay, normally it lets you do the oh, if you hold control, you can do open implementation, right? Open declaration, how did I do it before? Type hierarchy, there we go. Not type, call hierarchy. You go to that, and then you can find everywhere that it calls that file, or that method. In this case, it's here, and it's there. It should also be in here though, right? No. It should only. I need this one that needs to be called effect interp. There we go. On command. So I had to make a few new commands to implement the particle system, because what I wanted is, I wanted the player, not the player, I guess the player, which would be a staff member in this case, to be able to add and remove players from the particle list. Because not everyone's going to get particles. I mean, it's an add-on thing that I guess people can get if they're VIP, or I don't know. It's not up to me what it's used for. So I added a new command, pparticles. I had a new permission, pparticles. And then I had to get your config. arg0, this is the player. So the format would be cmd player name, and then effect type. So in this case it would be pparticles, player name, effect type. And that's it. That's to add an effect. However, I did make it a little better. Because I wanted it actually to be a little bit more customizable than my old FX plugin, which I deleted, by the way. Oh wait, no I didn't. I thought I did. I went ahead and added the ability to change the particle speed. Am I recording? Okay, yeah. I did the preview earlier, and I just previewed for like 3 hours while I was recording, so I kind of got irritated. and I'm a little paranoid about it now. So this one would be p-particles speed, player name, and then a double speed. So a double is different from an int because a double can be a decimal point. So I could have like 0.00001 or 0.01 or like 0.5, and an integer is a whole number. It has to be a positive whole number. Well, it can be negative, but it has to be a whole number. It cannot be a percentage. It cannot be a decimal. Yeah. So let's go ahead and do this one. Particles count. Now, you can't have half of a particle. So for this one, we had to do an int. So it goes player name, and then int, and count. So in this case, say you wanted 3 particles to spawn every, I think it's half second. Every half second, yeah. So every half second this is run, the effect emitter, or the particle emitter. What in the world is this? What did I edit? Oh. Where was I? Double speed count. Okay, so yeah. This emits... this is how many particles to emit every half second per player, by the way. So this is on a player-by-player basis. Now it's not. It shouldn't cause any lag. I mean, I tested it with, I think, I made myself spawn like 3,000 particles, and I had no issue. So, I mean, I cannot imagine that 100 players with only 20 particles. That's not going to do anything. That's what, 2,000 particles total, and it's not going to cause any issues. If anything, it'll cause frame rate issues, but it shouldn't. And it is configurable, so you can have 1 particle. So, and they despawn very quickly. It's not like they're going to stick around forever. I don't recommend spawning 1,000 particles a second or 2,000 particles a second on a player, on a single player, because that'll just crash their computer. Because, well, I don't know. It might not. I mean, mine seems fine. I didn't have any frame rate drop when I did the 1,000. So, now we've got particles rad. And then player name. And this is a double again, because you can have a percentage of a radius and a decimal of a radius in meters. And radius. There we go. So 1 Minecraft block is a meter cubed. You can do, if you do 1, then it's going to go 1 on each direction, and it doesn't look good. I like to keep it around, well, I prefer 0 to 1. That's pretty much where you should keep your radius. And your count can be anywhere from 0 to 50. It doesn't matter. Well, it can actually go up to 100. I think 50 is probably a good max. And your speed should be anywhere from 0 to 1. Anything higher than that, and it just doesn't look right. Well, you got to play around with the particle types, because some of them look awful if they have any speed, like flame. If you use flame and have speed of 1 or even like 0.1, you just get fire exploding everywhere. It looks terrible. So let's do this one. Rem, player name. So this one I added so you can remove the player from the actual particle list. So if we go over here, it would look like this: BKG 360, 1 effect portal, and then count. Well, actually it would be speed first. Speed, we'll say 1.5. 0.5. Count, we'll say 50. And then, what's the last one? Speed, count, radius. Rad is, we'll say 0. We'll say 0.5. That's a good radius for portal, I think. Between 1, we'll go 1. So, if I were to do particles rem, I'll show you the code here. If the player is online, then go ahead and do this. Otherwise, it's not going to work. And then it does, okay, go ahead and get the config, set args0, in this case it would be the player name, to null, which means everything everything that's childed to this gets killed. And then save the config, reload the config, and then I go ahead and do a check. If it contains it, run it, otherwise don't. This is just a formality kind of thing. I keep that there just in case. It shouldn't run. I had it there, so if it does run, then there's something wrong with your configs. That's just it. And I actually did have something running in a weird way. It really confused me. So I went ahead and added another check in here. Yeah. So if the player is online and they are inside the list still, so it always checks every time it goes. It's like, okay, is this guy still here? Yeah, okay. It doesn't have to open the file every time because the file is saved into, I guess it's in RAM or something. Or it's saved somewhere in a place that it can actually read it without having to open and close the file over and over and over. It's just stupid. That would be ridiculously intensive. And then I ran into another issue with changelings, because changelings can disguise, you see. So I'm like, okay, well, if it's a changeling and it's disguised, and it is disguised, do nothing. Otherwise, go ahead and run. So now if you're changeling and you're disguised, you don't get particle effects. If you undisguise, you get particle effects. Pretty straightforward. And the way I'm actually reading and getting the particle effects is in here, which I showed. But so instead of actually having to do like 2 of these, which wouldn't even work in the first place. Well, instead of doing a whole like if-else statement of each of these ones, saying, does this name equal this, does it equal this? What I did is I went ahead and wrote got a thing to convert the names, or the string, the enum, of my particle effect library thing. Here we go. So I enumerate, I got this, and then I went over here, I'm like, okay, I want this to read into, or to turn into array. So I did this, class, whatever, extends enum, blah blah blah. That thing, it does a thing, I don't know. That's just what you do. I don't know why you do it, but that's how it works, so. So it's going to go ahead and it wants to return a string array. Or, yes, an arrayless string, which is a really good thing to use, because they're really great for doing like for loops and comparing data. So arrays to string, e.get enum constants, replace all, so it replaces all these weird things. It's that's a regular expression, regex. So that just converts it to an actual string and makes it easier to use, and then it turns it in, and then it cuts it off at those, and yeah. Basically, I went online, I'm like, how can I convert this thing in here? And the guy was like, here, you could do it like this. I'm like, oh, okay, so I wrote that down and did that. Google, like I said, like I will continue to say, Google is your best friend. I mean, if you don't know how to do something, Google it. Or ask someone. There's always someone out there that knows more than you, no matter what. I mean, even if you made the dang language, someone still knows more than you. It's just the law of the universe. So, I made a can do boolean to have this run, and then I also made a public particle effect type, which basically this talks to the this talks to the add hat method. So let me go back to effect interpret. There we go. So I have an int x equals 0 in this case. So what I'm doing is I'm going to cycle through all of these and see if it matches if it matches the string that I told it. And if it doesn't, then it's going to keep that as false and not do anything. So yeah. And it ignores the case. So if it's lowercase, or if it's got like lowercase b and then a capital I and weird, if it's got, it could have, basically what it does is it says, are these the same word minus the case? And it's like, yeah, okay, that's cool. Can do equals true. And then I come over here and I'm like, okay, if it can do equals true, go ahead and run the switch case statement, the switch case thing, and then after you're done, put it to false and run the effect, or apply the effect to the player. So it doesn't have to actually call this every time. Whenever it does, well, on load, on player join, and then when you change class, that's, let me see. So on enable, that's basically when the plugin reloads or when the server turns on. On command, on join. This is when a player joins the game, so that, ouch. When you log in, it'll apply the effect, so, or it'll initialize the effect. Same with on enable and on command as well. So this only works when the players are online. So if there's a player online and you reload, it's still gonna work because it calls this. It's like, okay, get all the online players, like there, and then do that. So yeah, it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Player back to player. Okay, so this is the this is for the disguise handler. Convert the player, the changeling, I mean, back to the player. When you undisguise, I have it call the effect interpret just to ease the. It makes it so I don't have to have another loop going. It's just easier. I think that's about all I added today. It took up quite some time because I actually had to figure it out and get all the. Actually, the hardest part. I don't want to admit this, but the hardest part. The hardest part was I did this. Effects portal. You get the idea. I did this as the default config, so even when I deleted it in here, it still found it. I was like, what is going on? And then I'm like, oh, you idiot. Of course that would happen, because it's actually reading the defaults. And it doesn't have anything to overwrite it, so yeah. That was fun. I spent a good 20 or 30 minutes on. Oh my god, it's already 1:30. I spent a good 20 or 30 minutes on that, so it was pretty fun. Hopefully the particles work, or not work. Hopefully people like the particles. I mean, it's fun. It allows you to mess with particles. Oh yeah, I added a permission node as well. You have to be opt to use it, or someone has to, or you have to be given it. In this case, yeah, just ops have command in admin. So yeah, that gives you access to everything. That gives you access to these commands: spawn, color, nick, class, who is, research, name item, and particles. Name item, oh, I did that because I added name item. It's just a lets you name the item in your hand. I think it lets you do colors as well. I just added that because I had when I was using enchantment API as a dependency, it didn't when I updated to 1.8, it didn't, or anvils didn't work, and I needed to name an item. I had to name an item name tag because I was testing out an Easter egg, which I'm not gonna go into. I was testing out if I could run conditionals on entities with specific names, and it actually worked. So, well, I wasn't really testing as much as I was doing it, and I wanted it to work, but I couldn't name items because I didn't have anvils, so I had to make a new command for that. So that worked, and I think I had it ignore case. Yeah, so it ignored the case as long as it was similar to the name in some respect. So it could be like, okay, you should know how ignore case works by now. I mean, I did explain it, and it's kind of straightforward. Did I talk about my random number generator? This gives a random number. So if you want to do anything random, here's how you do it: public static int, random int, whatever you want to call your method, and then you got your minimum and your max value. Random rand equals new random. So in this case, object or random, and then what you want to call your variable random, and it's a new random method, class, whatever that is. Public random, yeah. Random, yeah, so it's a class, okay. Or random class, yeah, you get the point. And then you do int random num equals rand next int, and max min plus 1 plus min. Return random num. So this returns this integer, and I'm using integers because they're exact values, and they're always going to be whole numbers, so you're not going to get like decimals, and I needed that for I just wanted it. So do not use math.random if you want integers, unless yeah, just don't, because it's not going to work, because it gives us a value of 0 to 1. And it's all, or 0.0 to 1.0. It gives a value between those. So just do the just use the random int method that I have here. What else? I think that's all I added. I probably added some more stuff. Yeah, I did a bunch of behind the scenes, just working on stuff, optimizing things again, rewriting stupid things. I think I rewrote changelings, actually. Oh yeah, I did. Oh, that's right, I rewrote changelings. So let me go ahead and pull that up. So I went ahead and added a new array list here. It's called allowed disguises, because in my disguise handler it has every single entity, I think. No, it doesn't. I removed the extras. Oh, I know what it is. Because the way I have you learn disguises, you punch things, you punch entities. So you could punch a painting, and it would try to learn that, but you can't be a painting. Or you could, but it wouldn't look right, and it would just be wrong. So I didn't do that. So now, basically what it does is open, call hierarchy, add disguise. Okay. So I added a bunch of new methods. and I added some Java docs because I've been working on that. So add disguise string s. This is the string of the entity you want, I think. And you type to string. Yeah. So you punch something, and it's like, okay, is this in here? So it goes array list string, add to equals new array list string. So once you make an array list or a string, once you make one of these, you cannot add to it after you've initialized it. Or you can only add to it on your initialization. So you can do string whatever equals this, and that is the only time you can ever add to anything. Add to it. Unless you do this. You make a new array list string, like this, not the string bracket things. And then I call mine to add new array list string. And then I clear it immediately. Always clear it, just in case, because I am paranoid. And now what I do is a for loop. X equals 0, x allowed disguises dot length. So this will run, and it will run through each of the values. In this case, allowed disguises x. So it'll go 1, boom, 2, boom, 3, boom, 4, boom. And if it equals the string, then use equals true, which is add disguises basically. If it is true, then it can add disguises. And then it goes, okay, for I to 0, or which is basically the same as this one, disguises.length. So this is the disguises that you have. In this case, right now, you currently start out with villager disguise. So that would be a length of, I think, 0. Yeah. So disguises 0. If it does not equal s, then go ahead and add disguises. So if I were to punch a zombie, it would say, okay, this is disguises 0, in this case, villager, equal to, or not equal to zombie. No, it's not equal. Okay, go ahead and add it to disguises I. Or add that disguise to here. And then once it runs through all that, it's going to go ahead and go down here, and it's going to, okay, let's see, blah, 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 blah. Okay, to add s, which is the string that we want to add. In this case, zombies, if we punched a zombie. And then it goes ahead and it converts string to add array. Oh, okay, let me clarify. So you make a new one of these things, call it whatever you like, new string to add.size. So you got to get the size of this array list, and it sets that to the length, and then disguises to add to array to add array. So that's kind of confusing, I know. Disguises is your string. That's disguises. And basically we're just telling it equals something else now. That it's got a new array, or its contents are completely different now. In this case we're doing to add, which is what we have, which is our array list, so it would be villager, zombie. To array, so we got to convert it to an array, but it doesn't know what the size is. So we do to add array. And there you go. It's a little complicated. I forget how to do it all the time. Flyer can discuss. Oh, I also added a whole new thing. And also, oh, actually, I'm kind of happy with this. So you can see all this crap here. When you disguise as something, if it cannot fly, I disable your flight. Chickens cannot fly in Minecraft. They just kind of slow fall. So I'll probably have to add another a second check for chickens. I'll just enable slow fall on them. If you can fly, then you get flight. So here I have a set flyer, which is being called here, changeling.setFlyer, and then it's a boolean. Flying equals flyer, return flyer. So flying, which is a static boolean here, And let's find it. Okay, so I have it. It's called in the refresh energy area because this is where it gives you flight, and it also drains your mana or your energy for flying and whatnot. And this is where it handles all that. So if the player has flying enabled, if it's false, then changing that basically don't allow flight. Otherwise, go ahead and allow it. It's fine. So it does that, and I had to do a check because it loops through this every time, and it would just be like, hey, I don't know what this means because yeah, I didn't have this. Or no, if the player is not flying and isn't disguised, then if the energy is less than 25 or greater than 25, and okay, so here's what I had originally. If if energy is greater than 25, run this. That didn't work because it didn't know that flight wasn't enabled. So I had to go ahead and be like, okay, is the player allowed to fly? Then true. No, wait, that's not where it was. Disguised, get allow flight, false. Oh, okay. So if you're not disguised, duh. If you are disguised, that's what I did. I added the disguise check. So if you're disguised, or if you're not disguised rather, then you can fly if it was disabled and you have more than 25 energy. Okay, I forgot what I wrote there. I was like, what the heck am I looking at? That's something you'll do. Well, I do it all the time because I'm dumb. But is flying. That's the play sound area. Flying. Okay. So if you have greater, or if you have less than 5 energy, it's going to disable your flight. Because you can't fly if you have 5 energy. You'll still slow fall, but you can't fly. And you won't take fall damage from the slow fall either. I disabled that. Where is the disguise? Disguise. I think that might be in a separate. I think that's in disguise listener, right? Yeah. So I had to make it so you could, because I'm not a fan of commands like at all. I hate them. I mean, some of them are necessary, like if you want to add a player to a list, then you kind of need a command, especially if it's for like admin kind of thing. Otherwise, I like to do things in world. So for changelings, same with all the spell uses and whatnot, or all of the classes, almost everything is done in world. So I did some Java docs as well. Undisguise. This isn't entirely true. Undisguise. It also handles the cycling of your spells of your Okay, actually, let's start from the top. Set disguise. So when you punch something, you're automatically applied that effect, and then your UI changes as well. So it tells you that it shows that your GUI shows that you're disguised. Because I didn't want any text stuff as well either, because I don't like it. Oh, that can go. Anyway, if the damager is a player, then player P equals player. You don't get damager. So I'm calling this entity a player, and it's like, okay, that's fine. Now what I have to do, now that I know it's a player, is it a changeling? And if it's a changeling, then it says disguised. player's mob, in this case, it disguises the player as the entity that you struck. That might be an issue, actually. Player's mob, player change disguise. True. Oh wait, no, because it does run a check when you change. I forgot. Okay, so, and then after that, it adds a disguise. And if it is a disguise you can learn, then it's like, okay, cool, you can learn that, that's fine. And it adds it to your list, which you can access down here in the undisguise, because I added this function after I named these and had them sitting for months on end. So player P equals e.getPlayer. Always call that when you're dealing with players, because it just makes it so much easier. That way you don't have to type e.getPlayer, e.getPlayer, e.getPlayer every time. So I did, is it a changeling? Yeah, if the action is right-click air. If you right-click the air with a piece of leather, do you have to be shifting? No. No, shift right-click. Is this the one, cycle disguise? Yeah. So if you right-click in the air, or shift right-click in the air with a piece of leather, either or, here. It's the same as the spells. Shift right-click plus right-click, up and down, in increase, decrease in the array list. And then, if you're not right-clicking air, which is the use button, basically, so if you're not using leather on air, then you must be attacking the air, in this case left-click air, which is what it's called. Now, you have to be sneaking to do this, of course, because you don't want to be disguising all the time and trying to undisguise all the time. If you have leather in your hand still, that's how you disguise, and you're not disguised already, then it says string for int. So I'm converting the selected disguise into an entity. Disguise mob string to entity p string for int. Okay, so I'm retrieving the selected disguise from here, which just returns this disguise and then the value of your current location in the array. And then it's like, okay, and that's a string. Now I do disguise mob string to entity, which is a new thing I made. I made a whole new list thing here of all the things you can actually be. So it gets your player, and then the string entity, and then it goes, and then it will call player as mob, player, entity type. There's probably, that's the only way I could actually do it without rewriting the entire thing. It's actually a lot easier because I wouldn't want to have to rewrite all this. I would have had to do that if I were to do it any other way. And this way works fine, and it doesn't have any system impact. So I do actually have some chat commands here. If you're already disguised, then it tells you that, because it should. Here was the initial statement before I added all this other stuff. If you have nothing in your hand and you punch the air if you're disguised, and then you punch the air, then it undisguises you. So, yeah. So, I rewrote changelings. I did rewrite almost from scratch. They were about 50% when I started rewriting them. well, I cut them from 100% down to 50%, well, down to 25% actually, because they were not usable at all. And then I rewrote them back to up to 100%, and now they're even better. More efficient, and it looks better. Got new effects, and disguise-specific effects as well, which I'm quite happy with. At the moment, I'm happy with them. They're not done. I will be modifying and tweaking later on. I might add a config. Might. Probably won't, because that would be a massive pain in the butt, and I'm lazy. What else? Oh yeah, I added a new config, particles. You should know how to do configs by now. I think I went over a whole video on that. I think that's about it for now. I don't want to actually work on anything because it's, as you can see, it's almost 2 a.m. and I'm exhausted. I've been up since yesterday, the day before yesterday, because today's the 23rd. So I've been up since the 22nd. Just not even working. Like, I wasn't even like working on, well, I was working on this, but I was also, what was I doing? I don't know. Don't you love when you can't remember things? So I'm probably been recording for like an hour. 46 minutes? An hour-long video again? Ugh. Alright, guys. Thanks for watching The Deep End. This isn't really a Deep End episode. Well, I guess I'll keep it called The Deep End. It'll just be like Deep End Recap or something. 1.5 Recap. Or maybe I should just... yeah, I don't know. I'm really tired. I'm just rambling at this point. If you watched the whole thing, then thanks. I mean, hopefully you learned something. This was a lot more educational than the first episode. I mean, I did talk about a lot of stuff. I went in detail. I think I did, at least. And these aren't just for me. They aren't just for me to remember what I did, if that's what you're wondering. They kind of are, actually, because I'm going to forget. It's also to help you guys, though. If you have any questions on why I did a certain thing a certain way, feel free to ask. I probably won't give you an answer. Oops. Because a lot of times I don't even know why I do a thing a certain way. Like, yeah. Okay, thanks for watching, guys. Take it easy, and code